New number one in the box office. Andy Muschietti comments on, well, everything. And the House of Mouse in legit legal battle? All this and so much more on this episode of Beyond the Screen. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Beyond the Screen. My name is Ryan Gum. That's Jake Holtzclaw, and we're going to be your host today. Jake, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Today was a long day, just doing all kinds of different stuff at work. But time to do my favorite Monday afternoon night activity and talk about movies.
The old ball and chain. I drag you back here every Monday and say, you're going to listen to me babble, and I'm going to ask your opinion, and you're going to like it.
Well, I mean, a lot of my colleagues have like side hustles at work. So when I talk about, the slim pickings of movies I've actually seen, they're like, what are you talking about? I was like, oh, come on. You haven't seen Kung Fu Panda 4 or 3? Sorry, 3? And they're like, no. I was like, oh, okay. All right. Whatever.
No, dude. I
guess we can't be friends.
I wish. Yeah, I can't talk to you anymore. No, I wish I had coworkers in the moment. I'm currently in the middle of changing jobs. I've got one now. Shocker. Surprisingly, someone employed me. But I've been unemployed for about 2 weeks now, and it's interesting sitting at home while the rest of the world just turns. So
it gets boring. You think it's going to be like the best thing in the world, and then it gets, a lot of people need something to do after about a day, but I got to about a week and I was like, okay, this is old.
Yeah.
I need something to do.
Waking up at 10 a.m. only is fun and novel for about 2 or 3 times. And then it's like, nah, I'm okay with getting up at 7. Anyway.
So, yeah, but get a job. Come on.
Yeah, I know I'm lazy and I'm mooching, but not for at least for one more week. I got one more week. Anyway, moving in to cinema news, we've actually got a pretty stacked newscast for you today. We've got a lot of comments from Andy Muschietti. We've got a lot of quick hits news in the third segment, I should say. But first, we've got a new number one in the box office. The first time in about a month that we've had a new number one, not from Disney or not named Wicked. In a huge opening for Lionsgate, Den of Thieves 2 opens in the second weekend of the new year to an unexpected $15.5 million, establishing themselves as this past weekend's box office winners. This $15.5 million is on par with their original film's opening, which was in 2018 and was released by STX. So Lionsgate gets the distribution rights, helps produce the sequel, which also stars, both films star, I should say, Gerard Butler. So that kind of star power will pull people in just from the get. But we're on the same path, each film kind of opening to the same number. So the film synopsis, for those who are unaware, I kind of knew about this a little bit. I'd heard about the sequel coming out. I wasn't very interested. This kind of seems like another shoot 'em up, bang, bang, Mission Impossible style movie, which just, they're fun. I do like them, but I'd much rather watch 007 just personally for my taste. So if you're like me and you don't really know what these are about, the synopsis for the first film that came out in 2018 is, quote, Nick O'Brien is the hard-drinking leader of the Regulators, an elite unit of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Ray Merriman is the recently paroled leader of the Outlaws, a gang of ex-military men who use their expertise and tactical skills to evade the law. O'Brien, Merriman, and their crews soon find themselves on a direct collision course as the criminals hatch an elaborate plan for a seemingly impossible heist, the city's Federal Reserve Bank, which, still bum, bum, bum after that. And if you didn't know, Nick O'Brien is Gerard Butler. He's the lead, and if you didn't know, the fact that there's a sequel, he lives and he probably stops the Merriman and his outlaws. So for the sequel, the quick synopsis is lawman, quote, Big Nick O'Brien gets embroiled in the treacherous and unpredictable world of diamond thieves as he pursues career criminal Donnie Wilson to Europe. He's leaving America and he's crossing the pond. He's out of LA. Gerard Butler is doing the thing and making it happen in action movies. Jake, does this film interest you at all? And with it being number one so soon after Sonic and Mufasa released originally just 3 weeks ago, are we seeing Disney/Sonic fatigue?
First of all, you left out a big player in that movie, both movies. 50 Cent.
Oh,
50 Cent is in these movies.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. 50 Cent is the side character, is the help for Gerard Butler in the film. What is his character's name?
50 Cent.
Well, 50
No,
Cent.
Ensign Laveau.
Okay, excuse me. Sorry, I did forget to put 50 Cent. Actually, I meant to put him in here, and I did forget. So thank you for catching me on that. But Jake,
You're
again,
good. I'm looking at it and I'm like, that's 50 Cent. Is he just gonna brush by the the fact that 50 Cent's in this movie? But no, it's does this film interest me? I mean, it's another, like you said, shoot 'em up. But I mean, I wouldn't necessarily turn it away. I'm not against action thrillers, just to action thriller. Like I'm even thinking about watching the Brad Pitt and what's this the
George
Den of
Clooney,
Wolves, or what's it called?
George Clooney. I think it's called Wolves.
Yeah, George. Yeah, Wolves. Um, I was actually scrolling through movies to watch yesterday, and I was like, that might be a movie to watch, and it didn't get crazy reviews, but it's not. And this one, I'm looking at Den of Thieves 2. It's not getting absolutely insane reviews either. So it's just another one of those movies that you watch, and it's like, okay, that was 50 Cent, Gerard Butler making fun, shooting people and stuff like that. But I don't think it's fatigue so much as every other movie has been in the box office for 3 weeks at least. And so it just came in at the time that everybody was kind of leveling out. So Mufasa around 14 million, Sonic at 11 million, both at their fourth week. I think it just lucked into releasing at the right time.
I can agree with that, and no disrespect to 50 Cent, by the way. I think the man's hilarious. I just think that personally, with my answer to this question, I put the cart before the horse with my explanation. I'm not super interested in this film series. As you said, I completely agree with your assessment. I think it's fun for a one-time watch, maybe both movies. I don't think they're bad movies. They're just exactly what you said. They're meant to be fun, which is, as we've said many times, the point of filmmaking. So no disrespect to anybody. This looks like a really fun watch, just not one that I necessarily will be sitting in a theater for. And to finish the second question, and again, I will agree with you in the terms of the people who are going out to see these two movies have already seen it. Like, you're past the first time watchers, you're past the families. This is we're getting into now second and third time watchers, which is that really gonna, how many people are gonna go back to watch Disney's Mufasa and Sonic 2 or 3 times? So I think you're completely right.
I mean, well, you've got the kids. I can't really get back into the mind of a kid who watches Sonic and religiously loves it. I mean, you got to imagine Frozen pulled parents and kids back to a theater too many times to count, I would say. And then it comes out on DVD, and that's all these parents know, and it's it's a hell for them. So I don't think it's fatigue for the distributors as much as it is just that movie's been out for 4 weeks. Show me Den of Thieves 2 after 4 weeks. It's not going to be pulling as much as Mufasa is right now.
No, and of course, but I think the fact that you're comparing Mufasa to,
yeah, that too.
I think that kind of will hurt it too, because Mufasa is just not Frozen. But speaking of Disney's, or of Sonic and Mufasa, I should say, Mufasa finishes second on the week. We're not going to go over like we've used to, or I guess we have been in however many months we've been doing this now. We're not going to go through the top 10. Usually we've kind of revamped this segment to where we're just going to talk about the biggest news. It just so happens that the top 5, every one of the top 5 hit some sort of milestone, and we think it's worth noting. So speaking of Sonic, speaking of Mufasa, Mufasa finishes second on the week, just behind Den of Thieves, 2, earning $13.2 million over the weekend, which allows it to cross 500 million internationally, which is a huge mark. The original made $1 billion. So the fact that the sequel is, or I guess the prequel is over half that, and kind of, I don't think it'll cross $1 billion, but it might get to 700. That's a big mark for Disney. Whether or not it's worth their pocketbook, we'll see. Sonic 2 finishes third with 11 million on the weekend, crossing the 200 million mark domestically and a dash under 400 million internationally, sitting at 394 million earned in total. This passing of the $200 million mark domestically makes Sonic 3 the second highest grossing video game adaptation of all time, behind the Super Mario movie, which is a big feat. That's a very successful film. It's the third in the franchise, and it's second all time in video game adaptations. While a big win for Paramount, Jake, it's time to admit, I'm throwing in the flag. You win. You win the bet. I keep making the analogy, and I keep painting the picture in my head of how I've reached across and pulled all really dramatically all the bucks to my side. I'm pushing them back, and you can do what you want and all dramatically and pull them to your side. You win. I forfeit. Good job, Jake.
I would probably leave him in the middle for now. I still want to know. I'm going to go by total gross domestic, and you're still winning on that term. I mean, we're about what is that? 15, 16 million apart right now, total gross domestically. And I'm willing to let it ride out until they're not in the box office anymore.
All right.
And then we can count chips. I'm willing to let you have your lead for as long as you can keep it.
I fear we're going to forget about this, and we're going to be like 3 months down the line and be like, wait, who won?
Yeah.
We're going to have
Well,
to do all
I mean,
this.
we're gonna watch it drop, right?
No,
We're
of
gonna watch it
course.
drop from 2, 3 down to 5, 6 over the next weeks. I mean, it's the 4th week, and Moana's 2 is on the 7th week, so we're gonna see it 3 weeks still in the box office, and we're gonna know more towards that 7th week who's actually gonna be winner here.
Yeah.
So, judging by the loss rate, week over week, the change. Sonic is losing more people, I guess, faster than Mufasa is. So that is the longevity speaking. But you still have a 16 million lead.
Which, if
I don't.
things hold the form, it's going to take another 2 months before they're even tied domestically. So we'll see. We'll see kind of what happens.
Right.
This is going to be an interesting watch as the time moves on. But speaking of moving on and moving down the list, as I said, we're going to go over the top 5 because all of them crossed a really big milestone. Nosferatu finishes 4th with a 6.8 million domestic haul over the weekend. The film passes Neon Pictures and Osgood Perkins' Longlegs, which if you remember that over the summer, that was a frenzy. Good film. I think it missed the mark on a few things, but Longlegs, good film, earned 127 million in its lifetime in its run in theaters. Nosferatu in what is this week 3 for them as well? Maybe not even. It's already earned 135 million to date. So that makes Nosferatu the 3rd highest grossing horror film of 2024, despite releasing about a week. We're with a week before 2025. So I think that speaks to what Nosferatu has become as a cultural phenomenon in terms of the memes and what you see online. And just maybe, I think Nosferatu was better. And I, for one, think that the numbers are showing it. People are going out to Nosferatu like they were not for Longlegs. Longlegs still very successful, but I digress. Moana 2 finishes 5th on the weekend, earning another 5 million, nearing the 1 billion mark internationally. Hold on to that number or hold on to that name. We'll come back to Moana 2 a little bit later. Great for Moana 2. They're going to have, I'm pretty sure the first one, actually, I know for a fact the first one passed 1 billion. So they're going to have 2. Disney, great weekend for them. They've crossed, what is it now? Almost 1 billion with Moana, 500 million with Mufasa. In the last however many weeks, they've made almost 1.5 billion. So the House of Mouse is not struggling, but we're going to see later, as I said, they're in a little bit of heat. We've had some other big winners and losers surrounding the box office world. A24's The Brutalist, coming off an impressive performance at the Golden Globes, had a limited expansion in its theatrical showings, jumping from its previous 8 theaters, which is a very small release, to 68 theaters. Despite this still limited run, the film earned 1.3 million, almost 1.4 million at the box office, coming in at 11th when you look at the 1 through 40 scale on Box Office Mojo. While this number might sound minuscule compared to the other figures, we're talking about Disney earning $1.5 billion over the last 4 weeks and however many this week. I think 13.2 for Mufasa, if I remember just off the top of my head. That 1.4 million earned for The Brutalist is a huge number when you put into account, again, it was only released in 68 theaters. That is a staggering $20,400 plus per theater. That's a massive number for The Brutalist. Moving on a little bit, we're going to look down the lane here, and I'm going to ask Jake to look back after I've said all this. So hold on. I promise Jake's going to get to talk too. In the biggest loss of the weekend, Paramount Pictures domestically distributed Better Man, which absolutely flopped in American theaters anyway. The film overseas, I guess I should say here, earned only 1.1 million, while overseas it earned, I should say worldwide, it earned 10 million on a budget of 110 million. So if you're not for certain what Better Man is, you probably heard of it or you've seen it. You might just not know its title. It is an interesting take on the life of British pop icon Robbie Williams. It's a biopic, and it explores his life as he sees it as an anthropomorphic chimpanzee. That's an interesting choice. The film was directed by The Greatest Showman director Michael Gracie, excuse me. And while it's got great reviews, it doesn't necessarily connect with audiences, at least in the States. I, for one, had no clue who Robbie Williams was before this film. Apparently, again, he's a British pop icon. Jake, what are your thoughts from the latest from the box office?
Um, so Nosferatu, obviously playing off the memes. Moana 2. I mean, come on, it's a Disney movie. It's gonna be groundbreaking. The Brutalist, still can't wait to watch it. I can't really find a place to watch it with only 68 theaters, so I'm waiting patiently for that to come to. I believe HBO Max will likely carry it due to their partnership with A24. And then we get to Robbie Williams. Look, I mean, I knew the one song that like everybody knows, and it was like mid. It's not like
Oh
the
my
craziest,
God.
but I will say, like, I'm looking at the numbers here on Box Office Mojo, and I'm not sure if it's because it's been offered in 1,200 or almost 1,300 theaters, or because of the memes against it, but it's made like almost 4,000% like um change over the week. Like it's
Yeah.
made a lot of money this past week, either because more theaters are showing it or in conjunction, a lot of people are going to see it to make fun of it. And then they get there and it's like, okay, this is actually a decent movie review wise. However, it is weird that he's telling it as a monkey. And they wanted to be different from the other music biopics. And well, you did it, but at what cost, you know?
Yeah.
So, and it's supposed to be a metaphor to how he's dragged on stage like an animal, like a monkey, and that's how he felt, or all has always felt. But I mean, I don't know. There's ways to go about it. I see one of the main memes I'm seeing is where he's yelling to the crowd like he has their ass for 2 more hours or something like that, and then it plays whatever mid pop song. Like there's no the songs do not match um his demeanor at all. Yelling at the crowd, and it's like, I've got you guys for another 2 hours, and then he's like, uh just some cheesy pop song, so it's surprising actually that it's not doing well overseas, like worldwide. It's got a budget of 110 million, but it's only grossing 10 million worldwide. And so the Brits online, the Europeans are talking highly of Robbie Williams, but they're not going to watch it. Like they're defending him, but not watching the movie.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head as usual, Jake. I think, as I said before, I just don't think audiences click with this. Those who see it, as you said, they love it. I think that in reviews I've read is that them allowing him to be portrayed as a chimp, not only does it allow them that metaphor that you were describing, but it also allows them a really creative and fun way to tell his story, which I think on paper it probably looks a lot more intelligent than what it come across as. And I'm not denying that this is a good film. I just think you have to know your audience. And even the Brits, who he is one of and is a pop icon for, are not going out to this movie. So
Yeah. Well, and I think you can attribute it to Michael Gracie, to being a good movie. You're going to get good reviews because you've got a great director
oh yeah.
to begin with. It's just you can only do so much with the premise. I mean, if people don't know who Robbie Williams is, and then you make him a chimp, I didn't know who he was to begin with, and so it's hard to step foot into that theater to even give it a chance.
I think the biopic market is oversaturated to begin with. You think a look. I mean, you take a look at another biopic that's out, and that's Timothée Chalamet in what's it called? It's the Bob Dylan. I'm blanking on the
Yeah,
name off the top of my head, but that one's doing amazing. And I think that in the States anyway, they're more
it's a
interested.
complete
A
unknown.
complete unknown. Thank you. They're
Sorry,
more interested in Bob Dylan.
number 6.
Yes. See, yeah, they're top 10. They're more interested in Timothée Chalamet. They're more interested in a traditional biopic in a market that is already saturated because every musician is getting their story told on the big screen. And so you got to swing for the fences somehow. They made him a chimp. But the problem is nobody knows who the guy was to begin with. So
Yeah.
I think that's a great place to leave off here. We ran over a tad bit with our segment here, but if you stick with us, coming up after the break, director Andy Muschietti speaks to the media regarding his already released and upcoming projects. This coming up next. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to segment 2 of Beyond the Screen. We're going to cover specifically and exclusively Andy Muschietti's comments to Argentinian outlet Radio TU. He gave a very extensive interview with this media outlet describing everything from, he was asked questions regarding his Batman film and comments by Matt Reeves, his It prequel series that's going to Max later this year, and even more. So hopping right into it, Matt Reeves and Muschietti, they counter claims about Robert Pattinson potentially joining James Gunn's story. The backstory, we're going to take a step back here. Muschietti has long been attached to direct the DCU's take on the Batman with a film titled The Brave and the Bold. This is in James Gunn's DCU, not to be confused with the Elseworlds where Matt Reeves currently resides. Keep that in mind. This story with Muschietti that he is currently penning, trying to get approval from James Gunn for, follows Bruce Wayne and his live-action debuting son, Damian Wayne, as Robin in, again, a movie titled The Brave and the Bold. However, since it was announced that Muschietti would be penning this film, he hasn't completed a script, with James Gunn outright stating they're not quite where I want them to be yet, talking about Brave and the Bold and a few other films. He's been focusing on Superman, so Muschietti has said in another interview following Gunn's comments, quote, "I've had conversations with James Gunn about the story concept, but we haven't talked since before Superman began filming." So things have kind of stalled a little bit for The Brave and the Bold. People are starting to wonder, like, is that going to fall off? Has it been delayed? James Gunn has come out and to say, no, it's not been delayed, but no one really knows what's going on. With this confusion, in comes Matt Reeves, who's on the red carpet for the Golden Globes. Josh Horowitz of the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast catches up with him and is asking him everything from Batman to other projects. And during that questioning, he said he has contemplated bringing his Caped Crusader into Gunn's universe, stating, "It really comes down to whether it makes sense. There was a story I wanted to tell, the epic crime saga. It's been important to me to play that out, and James and Peter, as in James Gunn and Peter Safran, who are the two guys leading DCU, have been really great about that." Muschietti, in response to this comment about, hey, I've thought about it, and if it fits, but I'm telling my own story. In response to Reeves, Muschietti quickly responds on this Radio TU interview, stating, "As everyone knows, the Batman featured in The Brave and the Bold will belong to the new DC universe. It's quite obvious that Matt Reeves' Batman is not part of this new universe." Muschietti continues, quote, "I want to make the movie," that being Brave and the Bold, "and we're talking about ideas and story and tone. I can't say anything, but it's going to be great, and that I can tell you for sure." Jake, what are your thoughts about this uncertainty with Batman in the DCU and this back and forth seemingly between Reeves and Muschietti?
I think it's like Pattinson between two divorced parents being pulled from one arm and the other arm just being pulled in half kind of deal. They're fighting over the kid. But I think I'm gonna go with Muschietti here and be like, the detective Batman and what I think they want DCU to be if they're still trying to copy of the Avengers. That detective Batman is going to get eaten alive. Like Ben Affleck did that. His Batman was the DCU Batman you need in an Avengers level universe. You know, you do the detective Batman. You let him do his thing and fight the Joker and do it his way. But what he's doing over there is not gonna. I don't think he's able to go up against what's his name, Darkseid. You know, I just don't see it. That's not. He's got a long way to go in terms of tech and overall fighting ability. He's got to go see some monks to learn how to do, you know, some astral projection and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
Robert Pattinson's got a lot of growth in terms of just that character to hit Avengers level threats.
So it seems to me like you feel like if you put what we've seen that is a Robert Pattinson Batman in a Justice League scenario against these superhuman type threats, you feel like he wouldn't stack up.
He's getting laid out by people dressing up as the Riddler.
So what
and he's having to juice up, you know, like he's not ready to go against millions of parademons.
And no, and I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just trying to I'm just trying to grasp what you're saying here too. And it's like a question I have is, what about Ben Affleck's Batman made him prepared for that kind of thing. Outside of the fact that he had the opportunity with Zack Snyder's vision to fight Superman, and he did win. What do you think Ben Affleck brought to the table with that character that makes you think, okay, that guy is worthy of the Justice League or could stand up in the Justice League?
Well, I mean, he's been given the world, the universe, the tech, everything you need to go against those threats. Whereas you see Robert Pattinson's, even his Batmobile is far more realistic. I mean, you see the engine, and he's put like a jet engine in the middle of it, but it's a whole lot more believable than Ben Affleck's, where it's doing 360s, it's got machine guns all over it. I just think that the Robert Pattinson's is a lot more of a realistic telling of Batman, where he can't necessarily just get up after getting shot in the chest, even though he's bulletproof, but get up, from that. He is somewhat distraught after being blasted with a shotgun, as somebody would.
Yeah.
Even if you are wearing bulletproof vests, you're going to feel it, dude. Point blank. Yeah. So whereas Ben Affleck's, I mean, he's even though he doesn't look bulletproof, but he's taking punches. I mean, parademons are pulling on him, big old, claws on those things. So I just think it's definitely more Avengers level unrealistic than Robert Pattinson's.
No, and I completely agree. I just think that I can see both sides of it in terms of, for me, I think the difference between the two is Ben Affleck's character had been Batman for a long time and Robert Pattinson's hadn't. So Robert Pattinson's character is still learning what Ben Affleck's character had. So that would be where I would I think you're completely right. And I think Matt Reeves has done almost a too good of a job at making the Batman human. That's kind of like his human is what makes him an intriguing character, but also he's the Batman. At some point, you have to make it to where he's also borderline indestructible as man.
Right.
And
he's got a long way to go.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's what we're shooting for in this, you said it was a trilogy of this detective Batman, he's got a long way to go before he's ready for any Avengers level threat.
And that's just in this trilogy. And so I kind of, to go back to a
Justice League level threat.
Yeah.
My fault.
And to go back to a point I was making earlier about the potential for Pattinson to be in the DCU, I think on one hand, people love him. Matt Reeves, I think if James Gunn wanted to say, look, Matt, you have a story for this. You've got characters that people like. We'll bring you in. You run the Bat side and you combine that with what we're doing. We're all together, but you essentially let Matt Reeves be resident Bat family type, running with the Bat characters, allowing that story to progress in conjunction with whatever James Gunn's doing. That is really interesting because, one, you can go from a young to an old Batman. Two, you've got a person that people recognize and like. And three, it's already there. You don't have to confuse people with multiple Batmen running around at the same time, named Bruce Wayne, but one being canon and one not. But on the other hand, this is kind of where I think you're going to confuse people even more if you do change your mind on that. And this is where I think I will agree with you that I would side with Muschietti on this, that it should be a completely separate, the Brave and the Bold should continue to be made. It should not be canceled. They should cast a new Batman, and they should steer clear of bringing Matt Reeves in simply because they've gone out of their way so many times and for so long to say that's different. They've done too much to try to put that wall in place for an audience's mind to say, yeah, Matt or Robert Pattinson will not be joining us, and to just randomly on a Tuesday say, yeah, actually, never mind. He's one of us. And then to kick Muschietti out, whether or not he deserves it is another story. But to kick him out and say, your story's not happening, it's all Matt Reeves, I just think that it goes back on your word when you're trying to gain an audience trust, like Gunn and Safran are trying to do with DC. I don't know. I just think that they should stick with Brave and the Bold. They should stick with the story. And I think there's too many people talking about too many things at once with a story that's not yet fleshed out. I think James Gunn's saying too much. I think we're going to continue going through what all Muschietti had said in this interview. We've got two more topics to discuss, but I think people in DC need to chill and relax and let the story tell itself. I think they're speaking too much personally. I mean, this is week 5 in a row we've talked about this, talked about something that someone said from the DCU, and usually it's all confusion. Usually it's defending why one movie's taking a really long time and, hey, when will this movie come out over here and, whatever. But Moving on, we'll continue with more comments from this Radio TU interview. When pressed about his thoughts regarding the failure surrounding his take of The Flash, if you remember, Muschietti was the director of Ezra Miller's Flash, that horrible, like that really bad way to end Zack Snyder's tenure as the showrunner for DC's extended universe. Yeah, that was the same director. He was asked, why did it fail? And he had a really interesting response, and more or less it was to blame the audience. Sort of. Muschietti described how the film didn't appeal to all four quadrants, which those quadrants in a nutshell are like young and old, like teenagers to kids to young adults to old men, and the same for women. So you got young men, young women, old men, old women. Those are the four quadrants in a nutshell, stating that it failed at that, at appealing to all four quadrants. The director would go on to describe how he only found out in private after the film's release that, quote, a lot of people don't care about the Flash as a character, particularly the two female quadrants. Muschietti would describe how, with Warner Brothers spending $200 million on production for this failed Flash movie, they, quote, want you to bring even your grandmother to the theaters. Jake, do people really not care about The Flash, or is Muschietti out of touch? Because I have a very strong opinion about this, and I'm curious if you're in the same boat.
So, and I'll probably steal this from you because we may or may not have talked about it before, but the Flash CW show was huge for a long time.
Arguably the biggest show on the CW for like 8 years.
Yeah, and then a lot of people were into Green Arrow for a long time. I mean, there was a point where you can't just tell the same, oh no, there's a bad guy, I got my butt kicked, and then now I found out I can do a new ability, and then I beat the bad guy. And that it was that way for more than like 8 seasons. And
Yeah.
at some point, it gets old. But also, I think there was a level of budget and special effects, and the writing just got super bad, just lazy. But before that, Prime, Flash, everybody was watching. Moms, if grandma was in the room, I don't know if grandma was straight out seeking CW shows, but I would say a lot more people were interested in that TV show than this Flash. And so I don't know if it's necessarily they're uninterested in the idea of a Flash, more so they're uninterested in Ezra Miller on top of his cancellation and his drama. But also, was this Flash even good? Like, it was that telling of the Flash even did it rival the post season 8 CW?
No,
Flash?
that's the thing, is people trashed on the story. They thought it was stupid. Ezra Miller as a person, they have problems and they have ruined their own career. People did not want to see them in the role. So yeah, the film's gonna fail. He talked about, like, we had wins pushing against our sales for many reasons, and he blamed the audience for not being interested. And the thing is, going back to that CW argument, it was led, as you said, by The Flash. It was led by Green Arrow and a number of other characters. You did not see Batman at almost any point. Superman did not come up in a series with, what was it called? Superman, Clark and Lois or whatever. That, which was what finished the CW verse. That didn't come out as a series until after The Flash. So The Flash carried with the Green Arrow, who are supposed to be these side characters that, as Muschietti would want you to believe, people don't want to see, carried for the better part of a decade an entire station's show. Like, people were turning in to superhero TV shows because of these two characters, specifically The Flash. Grant Gustin has had interest in coming back in James Gunn's DCU. He straight out was like, yeah, if I get a call, I'd do it. But the reason I bring up Grant Gustin is because people recognize him as the Flash. People our age and younger see him as the Flash. What are you talking about?
He's got a pretty good Barry Allen down too. And honestly, when you tell me to think about Green Arrow, I think about I don't know his name, but the Green Arrow actor. Like, that's who I think about when you say that character. So, sorry, what?
Stephen Amell is the name of the actor.
Yeah, so I mean, even if you like looking at the comics, he doesn't have like the curled mustache like Robin Hood, but that's Green Arrow to me. Like, that actor plays it well.
Yeah. No, and to answer the question before we move on to the final piece, I think Andy's just out of touch. I think he's way out of touch, and I think he's trying to cover for a bad movie that he directed. I don't know if he had anything to do with penning it, probably not. But it's a bad film that his name is forever attached to, and I think he wants to do anything he can to kind of try to wipe his hands clean. But blaming the audience for something that you had a part in and it was just not a good film, sorry, like that's on you. Don't blame the character. Don't blame the audience for you not being able to bring out something in people that they didn't want to see. So anyway, with that being said,
Yeah.
sorry,
Step
go ahead.
one in PR: do not blame customer.
Yeah.
He must have missed that in whatever course he took.
I mean, just terrible. But anyway,
It's just the wrong way to go. You don't blame your audience. You don't blame the customer. There's always it's the product more so than.
yeah, completely agreed. And he's just out of touch. But we'll want to go ahead and hop over. We're again running a little long. The final thing that Muschietti and Radio TU talked about in their interview was the upcoming It Welcome to Derry prequel series coming to Max later this year. Now, if you didn't know, Andy Muschietti is known for directing both of the remakes of the It franchise, the adaptation of the Stephen King novel, which was a remake of the Tim Curry short series or TV series or whatever you want to call it back in the 90s, which was also really good. Both are very like, this is what I guess what makes me mad about The Flash, just a little sidebar, is he is shown he can make a good movie. He didn't make a good one. That happens sometimes. A vision doesn't pan out, and he blamed. Sorry, I'm not going to get back into it. We're just going to move on to Welcome to Derry. We're going.
He feels very strongly about this, guys.
I feel very strongly. Anywho, giving insight surrounding the series, again called Welcome to Derry, the events take place leading up to Pennywise's appearance in the 2017 film It Chapter 1. So the first season, it's 9 episodes long. It takes place in 1962. It is 27 years before the events of the first It remake film in 2017. So this, if all goes well in terms of viewership and audience response, will kick off a 3-season series with seasons 2 taking place in 1935 and 3 taking place in 1908. This confirmed, at least envisioned, I should say, by Muschietti himself. That's what he is laying out for people. And all these are 27 years back. So as the director explains, quote, it's a story that's based on the interludes of the book. The interludes are basically chapters that reflect Mike Hanlon, who, if you don't know Mike Hanlon, he's a key driver for the main characters in It Chapter 1 and 2, the film. He is kind of the guy who's like laying the breadcrumbs for what Pennywise is. But you're following his research. There are fragments of his research going back to the quote, for 27 years, it's the guy trying to figure out what it is, what did it, who saw it, and all that stuff. The director continues, quote, every time Pennywise comes out of hibernation, there is a catastrophic event that happens at the beginning of that cycle. We are basing the 3 seasons of this series on each of these catastrophic events, which essentially are interludes and chapters in the book that have never seen the light of day outside of the pages that it was written in. Jake, is this how you correctly expand upon an already known IP? Because I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, this is an easy way to tell more stories within the same universe. You're jumping 27 years, and that was already given in terms of the clown coming back. But you have all new characters pretty much. Over 27 years, a lot changes, so you have a lot more ways to tell the story. We were talking before the show about like how Red Dead kind of uses that time jump situation. The video games Red Dead 1 and Red Dead Redemption 2, they'll tell the story from John Marston's point of view in 1914, and then several years later they come out with Red Dead Redemption 2, and it tells from Arthur Morgan, and John's there as well, about 20 or 15 years prior. And so you get to see the gang of outlaws before what happened in the first one. So it makes it easier to tell new stories in the same universe instead of just retelling the same dang story over and over again.
Yeah.
So it's just a one way, Batman with, Robert Pattinson's Batman, where it's just a retelling in a different manner of sorts.
Yeah, it's the same story, different font with that, which great creative decision with Robert Pattinson. Like, we're not judging that. However, With this, you see so many adaptations, you see so many remakes, you see so many of the same story. And there's another one coming later that you'll see a remake of a movie into a series with a certain twist that you don't need. We'll talk about that later. You see that happen all the time. What I love about this and why the question is phrased. Is this how you correctly expand upon an already known IP? They're taking parts of the story that haven't been dissected yet, and they're just giving it light of day, which add to the story already told. And exactly to your point, that's what Red Dead does. When you go back and you're not in John Marston's point of view for the entirety of Red Dead 2, but you see what led up to the events of Red Dead 1 regardless. You follow these characters and you know why it was so personal in Red Dead 1. So it's like, I think that I wish that more creators were had this much care in their stories. But I digress. I think this is a great place to end going into segment 3. Segment 3, quick hits, coming up after the break. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Beyond the Screen. You made it to segment 3, quick hits, where we go through the biggest news that we don't think needs super dissecting in as fast a time as we can do it. Before we move on, I want to say thank you for making it this far. You guys are awesome. Just for those of you that listen, that keep coming back, we love just filling you in on what's happening. We love your ears. We would love your opinions if you feel inclined to do so. Like, share, subscribe, do whatever platform you're listening to this to. We'd really appreciate it. But thank you. Some quick comments before we get into the main pieces of news. One, for those affected by the LA fires, we're thinking about you. There's not really a lot we can do over here in Kentucky, but if you're listening and you want to make an impact, donate to the Red Cross. They have a huge a drive going right now for funds for the LA fire survivors. So hop on there and do what you can. Donate if you can. Anything's appreciated. In other news, very quickly, happy National TikTok Ban Day. We won't be back before it is banned in theory, or maybe we will have one more episode. Regardless, just in case if we're not. Happy National TikTok Ban Day for those who celebrate. By the way, as reported less than 30 minutes ago, as of time of recording, Elon Musk might be trying to buy the site from ByteDance, and ByteDance is reportedly interested to selling to Elon and his partners, but no one really knows how the guy's going to afford $40 to $50 billion. Even if he is the world's wealthiest man. Who knows? But regardless, that's kind of your quick hits of what's happening in this moment and things you should know about. Moving on to film news and things actually happening in the world that we have so inclined to call our own. Moana 2 is in controversy. Remember earlier I said to keep Moana 2 in your head. We had a lot to talk about with them. We're going to go through it quick, but here we go. Animator Buck Woodall is suing Disney for allegedly stealing his plot points for both Moana movies and is seeking $10 billion from the House of Mouse. Woodall claims he gave a script and trailer for a short film titled Bucky to a Jenny Marchick back in 2003, when Marchick was the director of development at Mandeville Films, which was back then had a first look deal with Disney. Woodall claims that Marchick took the script, trailer, storyboards, and other materials, promising the animator to get the film greenlit. She liked the story concept. She said, "I'll do this for you. You have a great concept. We're going to do it." Fast forward to 2016, Moana is released, as Woodall alleges, and it has undeniable similarities, including, as reported by Sky News, quote, both plots celebrate a reoccurring theme of the Polynesian belief in spiritual ancestors manifested as animals, and how both include the protagonist's journey, starting with a turtle, a plot involving a symbolic necklace, a main character who encounters a demigod adorned with a giant hook and tattoos, and a giant creature that's concealed within a mountain. And that, if this is true, ladies and gentlemen, that is Moana. Woodall, continuing with what's going on, Woodall tried to sue the House of Mouse back in November of last year for the first installment, so however many years past the 2016 original. In November of last year, Woodall was like, "Hey, actually, I want to sue." And a district judge denied and said, "Hey, you took too long. Sorry." But then Moana 2 released, and Woodall sued again this month, and he now has legal ground to stand on for this lawsuit. Disney and director Ron Clements adamantly deny Woodall's claim, with Clements very, very strictly saying, "I have not heard of this until this lawsuit." Jake, what do you make of this?
Dude, I wouldn't put it past Disney to have done this. I mean, truth will be told. Innocent until proven guilty, but it would not surprise me that the sleazy mouse has been found out, you know?
Yeah. apparently Woodall, or not Woodall, sorry, Jenny Marchick, apparently she's now at DreamWorks. So I'd like to see her history and see where this all goes. The thing is, what kind of gets me is Woodall hasn't released anything to say or to show proof that he actually had this concept beforehand. And why wait 9 years after the original film's release, unless he was saying something and it just now got picked up by the media? I don't know. I couldn't find that. There's nowhere he's released anything regarding his short film, which was called Bucky. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. If this is true, this is pretty damning for Disney, and it does not look good. And as we were talking about before, it's like, hey, if this is true, Disney will probably settle out of court. And if they do settle, one, you will never hear about it again. But two, I think that is Disney kind of waving the white flag and saying, okay, we're going to privately surrender. And yeah, we did do this. So I don't know how that's going to affect a company that is both universally hated and universally loved. But anyway, moving on down the list, Christopher Nolan's take on the Odyssey. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but that's a pretty big deal at the moment. This will become one of Christopher Nolan's most expensive films to date, with a budget of $250 million. And I mean, we know Christopher Nolan, when he brings those actual real life Lovecraftian creatures, it's going to be crazy. I don't know what Tom Holland's going to do when he looks up and there's an actual Cthulhu staring at him, but it's going to be interesting to see on film nonetheless. In other news, Shrek 5 has been delayed from its July 1st, 2026 release date to December 23rd, 2026. The film return stars Mike Myers, Cameron Diaz, and Eddie Murphy. With that July 1st, 2026 release date, Minions 3 moves into that date. So we'll see Minions 3 before Shrek 5, and that is still the better part of 2 years away. So sorry for all the Shrek 5 fans, including myself. You're going to have to wait a little bit longer. Video game media. We've got a lot of video game adaptations. We talked earlier about Sonic 3 becoming the second highest grossing video game adaptation to film ever, behind Mario, and now just out of the woodwork, you're seeing video game titles getting adapted left and right, or getting greenlit to be adapted left and right. One of those, and we're going to talk about three of them. The first one being the first trailer to the live-action adaptation of Until Dawn has been rated and is ready for release. If you're not familiar with Until Dawn, it's kind of a niche game, but it's very popular. The game is made by Supermassive Games and is a choose-your-own story, thriller/horror adventure with a synopsis of, quote, players assume control of 8 young adults who have to survive on Blackwood Mountain when their lives are threatened. So in essence, you have to control the right character responses, properly execute quick time events that just kind of come out of nowhere to do your best to keep all 8 characters alive as long as possible, or throughout the entire game, as they encounter dangerous foe. Sony, I don't know if you heard about this one. This was big news. Sony confirmed last week at CES 25 the green light for production regarding films in the Helldivers and Horizon Zero Dawn franchises and a Ghost of Tsushima anime series. And last but not least, in our quick hit segment, Holes has, according to Variety, it has been reported that a gender-swapped series adaptation of the childhood favorite movie Holes is getting greenlit and is going to be put on Disney+. In case you're wondering, the story is going to be the exact same. Jake?
Yeah.
Which one of these are you most interested in, or which one do you want to comment on?
I'm always down for a good anime by Aniplex. So Aniplex is doing that in conjunction with Crunchyroll. I have not played Ghost of Tsushima, but I'm interested
beautiful
in that story because I do know the story. And then I did not get around to playing Helldivers with the bros. I was not on Malevolent Creek. I don't know what it's like to be a veteran of those times, but I think that one's just going to be, I don't know. I think it's going to probably be more of a cash grab. Same with Holes. I mean, come on, really? Was that needed, or is that just, Disney? That's just going to be something that people buy Disney Plus for like a month and then not. I don't know. And it's going to work probably, but it's just like classic Disney.
Yeah.
So I am one of Disney's biggest haters. I'm not. I don't like what Disney does.
I don't like that mouse.
I don't like that mouse. That mouse pisses me off. I don't care if I'm winning a bet because Mufasa's, making more money. I still don't like that mouse.
No, dude. And to answer the question from my end, I'm most interested to see what Christopher Nolan does with $250 million compared to what was spent. So that same number was spent on Red One and other films. So I'm interested to see what Christopher Nolan can do compared to some of these other films that had the similar budget and flopped. Jumping to video games, I'm nervous about Helldivers. I am a Helldivers vet. I've been playing it since it was new. Maybe 3 weeks after it was released is when I first picked it up. I've had the time of my life with this game, and it makes me excited. The thought that we can get some expanded media from this really fun open source video game. But how good can it be if you're not having any of the actual storytellers be involved? I don't know who is being involved from. I think it's Arrowhead Games, or I can't remember the production company's name. If you don't have that creative, like that force pushing this movie, I worry about what it'll be. But it should be pretty comedic, and it should be a lot of fun. It's gonna, if it is good, it's gonna have a lot of really cool visuals. I've heard a lot about the excuse me, sorry. I have heard a ton about Until Dawn and that movie, and fans, the response they've been giving from what the more they hear about this movie is, the more that comes out about what the story will be, the less it sounds like Until Dawn, which is kind of tough when you have a game that's about, it's got 4 different endings and or more, and it's about like picking the right action at the right time. So it's like, how do you like label down a story, a singular story to follow in a film like that? Unless it's like Black Mirror Bandersnatch, which was a show that you could do that same thing, where it was like you could make your choices and the characters would do whatever and you could go back. Unless it's a streaming release with that concept, like Netflix's Black Mirror episode Bandersnatch, I don't know how it would work. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go over our final thoughts, our final comments, but that's really been the show. So thank you guys so much for sticking it out with us for about the better part of 50 minutes. Jake, anything you'd like to tell the people? Anything you'd like to say about anything we've covered before we let them go?
Give me 250 million and I'll bring you a Cthulhu.
You could give me 250 million and you'd never hear from me again. I would just leave.
He would have probably tried to get Cthulhu, but he couldn't handle it.
Yeah, I stared into the abyss of the unimaginable monster that was sitting in front of me, and I lost my mind. But I still had 250 million.
Yeah, so get your money up. Says the broke guy. Says the guy without a job.
Hey,
all right.
Hey. You know what? I'm not taking this. I'll see you guys later. Thank you guys. Take care.